Hey, what's up, fam? It's your boy, Sebastian Sanders. Welcome back to the Money Mondays podcast. You already know what it is, man. This is the number one business show for finances, operations, marketing, business analytics, data. Hey, listen, everything that we do here is all education-based. We're going over great business strategies, some Q&A opportunities, case studies, all that cool stuff, man. So welcome to episode 3. Today's episode is going to be about how do you legally start a business. Keyword I said was legally. How do you legally start a business? But let's get right into it. You already know what it is. The first thing that we do here, we start with something motivational, inspirational. Today I have Proverbs 3. It says, "In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." I chose this today because often in entrepreneurship and in business, we're trying to do things on our own path. We're trying to create our own lane, start our own journey. But ultimately, guys, as I said in the previous episodes, you have to create that partnership with God. Sometimes you just have to take your vision to God and say, "Hey, God, where do I go?" Because we think we know what's best, but honestly, we do not know our steps. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. And your plan is always going to be different than God's plan. And so I had to learn this the hard way, right? When I first left, my big 6-figure job, I'm stepping out into entrepreneurship. I thought I truly understood and I knew my path. I thought I was going to open this up. I'm going to have $10,000 here out of making a month. I'm going to have $100,000 annually in this account. I thought I was just going to have all of these great things because I thought I created my own path. But God sat me down and said, "Son, bring it to me." And it took me almost a year to actually bring it to God. I was really honestly running away from it, and I didn't even want to give it to God until I just had no choice. I literally ran out of options, and all I had to do was sit in my room and really just look at God and face God. And so, and always acknowledge him, right? In every win, give it to God. Give God the glory because we don't do anything in this world by ourselves, right? We always say, "Hey, I'm self-made, I'm this and that," but ultimately in your wins and even in your losses, God has been there every step of the way. So in all ways, acknowledge him, and I try my best to acknowledge him. I try my best to speak about it. I don't like to portray to be a perfect Christian or anything like that, right? But in all ways, I try to give the glory to God because without him, I'm nothing. I wouldn't even be here today speaking in front of y'all. And I try my best to, when I'm struggling, to give it to him and let him direct me on the path. And I may not always be perfect at it, but in business, sometimes you have to understand that, you need that partnership. So with that being said, guys, Proverbs 3, I think that's something that we should all study. I remember my barber told me years ago, he was like, "Hey, man, Sebastian, study your Proverbs." And I to be quite honest, Barber Fave in San Antonio, Texas, I haven't truly studied them like I should have. But he always told me, "Man, study your Proverbs, study your proverb. It'll make you a better speaker and a better businessman and a better leader." And so I was kind of going through my Bible app, going through a few plans that I've personally read, and this one stood out to me, so I wanted to jump on here and share that with you all. And once again, that is Proverbs number 3. So with that being said, how do you legally start a business? Let's get right into it. So don't start like this, right? And on this show, I keep it real and I keep it authentic. I do not want you to start a business like this. And this goes for a child, this goes for an adult, a young adult, even an elder person. What not to do when starting your business. The first thing that you don't need to do, and this is what everybody rushes to do, they try to go out and get a nice logo and they want a brand first. That's cool. That sometimes, you do need the brand, but that's not the first thing you should be investing in. I shouldn't have you say, "Hey, I'm about to start this pizza business. I want to sell vegan pizzas," and the first thing that you have is a logo. You don't have a product, you don't have a service, you don't even have how much the pizza is going to cost, but you running around here with a logo and you posting it to social media. We have to get away from trying to do everything for attention and truly build a business. The first thing you don't want to do is create a cute logo. And I'm going to write this here on a whiteboard, that way you can follow along with me. But the first thing that you do not need to do is create that cute logo. So, what not to do when we want to start a legal business? Number 1 is a logo. Right? The first thing you don't want to do is create a logo. The second thing is don't rush to make a website. And this is important because before you can even make your first sale, before you even know how much your pricing is, what your product or your service is, all of us sometimes we try to go and create a website. "Hey, y'all go check out my website," and you haven't even launched yet. You don't need to rush into trying to get a website. Websites can be expensive, so ultimately I always tell people just get a landing page in the beginning, but that should be like step 8 or step 9. We shouldn't go into getting a logo and a website when we don't even have anything to sell, because ultimately when you get a person from social media, from following you, from seeing your posts, and you get them to your website, you need a call to action. You need some type of transaction being made. And, I had to learn this the hard way because because I was getting so many users on my website when we first started the organization. If you guys remember when I first started Sanders Hand in 2017, we made a post on, I think it was Twitter at the time. And it went like somewhat viral, got like 1,000 likes, 1,000 retweets, right? You know, I'm feeling myself. I got all of this, you know, I'm feeling good about myself, right? Everybody in my DM saying how proud of me they are. And I didn't realize, man, I didn't have any call to action. I didn't even have a website for y'all to even go, well, I had a website, but when you go to the website, there was nothing on there. So ultimately, I should have created something first, like a PayPal or a link to donate. But the first thing I did was jumped out and had a website, and you can't even do anything on the website. You could just go look at it, right? And so it was a complete waste of time. But I had 1,000-something people that was my audience at the time, and I never had 1,000-some people probably to that point. And so that 1,000 could have turned into something, but I didn't even have it all together. That's why I tell people, when you first start your business, stop trying to do all the cute and the fun stuff. Go do the ugly stuff that nobody wants to do. Because when you have an opportunity to potentially go viral, or you have potential to be in front of some people who's willing to invest, you need to have all your things in a row. And I'm talking about your legal things. So the first one, we don't want to get that logo first. And the second one, we do not want to get that website. And I know you may be listening to this and be like, man, how are you going to tell me to not start a business this way without a logo or website? I need branding. But trust me, when we talk about the things that you need to do, it all start to make sense. The next thing is, do not buy inventory with no plan. Man, I see people do this all the time. And I was listening to another podcast, and a lady was like, yeah, I started this clothing brand for women. And she was like, I have like thousands of pieces, but I don't even have a website. Backwards. Ridiculous. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So why would you go out and buy all that inventory when you haven't made a single sale yet? You don't know how much stuff is going to cost, and you don't even know what your audience likes. Man, guys, sometimes you got to spend a little money to make money, and that is true, but why buy inventory if you have no true business plan, right? You don't even have a photographer to take pictures. You don't even know where you're going to create content at, but you have all this inventory sitting in the house, and you don't have a way to sell it, and then ultimately you get depressed because you're like, anybody's buying my stuff, but you didn't have a plan. And so, man, like I remember, like, in my business, like, we don't necessarily have a bunch of inventory to purchase because we provide a service, but when we were providing products, I remember, like, my supply chain was all over the place, right? I remember we tried to do the We Care boxes, like in 2018, if you remember this. We started to do these kid kits, and I went out and bought all the stuff. Like, I went out to the store, I bought all the stuff that goes inside the box, and I never forget, I didn't have a single sale, and I didn't even know how I was going to sell this stuff. I didn't even have a marketing play. And so I had the inventory for like 6 months before I even made a video, and I wasted money on the inventory because that money could have been invested into the legal side of starting the business, right? And so I think it's important from a financial standpoint, but also a mental standpoint, because, as a business owner, you're walking around every day in your house or your office space, and you see that inventory sitting in the corner for like days. You're like, man, you start to get depressed. You start to feel bad about yourself, and you realize, like, man, I can't do nothing with this business, right? And you start to feel down, and that's when you ultimately quit. But you don't have a plan, right? And a lot of us got to get away from just doing stuff without a plan. Stop just doing stuff because you think it's going to work. Actually put a plan together, then you go out and execute. So that's the third one. So do not buy inventory without a plan. And my thing about inventory, guys, is I'd rather you get testers first. Go out and figure out, what the people will actually like. Go out and get some samples first before you go out and buy 1,000-something T-shirts. I forgot the name, but there's a way, I think it's called print on demand, or something like that with Shopify or certain stores where you can actually buy products from a business and they actually make it as they order. And I think sometimes that's maybe the best way to start, because ultimately everybody struggles with having capital in order to start their business. I mean, everybody struggles with that. Even the biggest of the businesses, they struggle to get the money that they need to do bigger things. And so cut out some of that overhead in the beginning and slow down on trying to do all this other stuff and get testers and get samples off first, and only do like small quantities. Then you get to see what the demand is from the audience, and you get to see what the demand is, from a customer standpoint, and then you can grow from there. Sometimes we got to crawl before we walk. And I think in business, especially for my young people, for those that don't know, I'm the executive director and founder at Sanders Hand. We're a global nonprofit organization teaching youth the business of financial literacy training since 2017, servicing over 5,000 kids and responsible for giving back a little over $100,000 in funding to our kids. One of the things that I've seen through our Young Billionaires Club program is a lot of our kids, the first time they want to start a business, they go out and try to get a whole bunch of T-shirts, and then they come to me and like, hey, I can't get nobody to sell it. You don't have a plan. You don't even have the business. You don't have a social media. And so, instead of wasting your time and wasting the little money that you do have in the beginning, put that money and spread it into other things that builds up the business. Then you go out and get the inventory. So number 4, don't accept payments on Cash App or PayPal personal. Now this is crazy, because people literally be like, hey, cash out me for a t-shirt or cash out me for a food plate. And I'd be like, man, I want to support the hustle. I truly do. But Cash App is not a real bank. I mean, literally, like I remember one time I sent the money to the wrong person. I think I sent it to a name that was like either the wrong name or the wrong person. I can't exactly remember. And I couldn't even get the money back. There's nobody I can call. Once that money is gone, it's gone. And, you better thank God that it's the right person on the other end and say, hey, I'll give you the money back. And so Cash App is not a real bank. I don't know who told y'all that. I don't know why you running around with Cash App cards and putting all your money in Cash App. You're getting paid through Cash App. Man, it's not a real bank. It's not federally insured. And it's the wrong way to go about doing business because it's the easier way to do it. And you got to think about it. The easiest things in life are not always the best things. If it's too easy, I like to stay away from it, right? If it's something too easy, I don't want it. You can keep it, man. That's just me personally. And I hope you pick on what I'm putting down. But, it may not be the best thing because it gives off the wrong impression. You may have a fire t-shirt. You may got one of the best t-shirts out there when it comes down to street clothing, and everybody want to buy from you. The first thing you say, hey, y'all cash at me, and I'll ship it, or I can meet y'all at the local Walmart. I'm going to look at you like, this seems a little ghetto. Let's keep it real, it's a little ghetto. You don't have your stuff put together, and a lot of times your Cash App is linked to your personal card. Don't put yourself out there with that type of business because you only get one time in life to make a really good first impression on somebody, especially in business. And the day that you do something that the customer doesn't like, customer service is everything. Marketing, word of mouth is literally the best form of marketing. You can go somewhere and you can have the best food, but people are going to be like, man, they lying too long or the service too long or the service is terrible, I meant to say. And people not going to go there based off of what that next person says. You running around here selling stuff off of Cash App and people are like, yeah, you just pay for it through Cash App. People looking at it like, for real? Is that a real business? People kind of get turned off by that. So it's best to find a professional platform. And if you have a personal PayPal is good. You can pay for goods and services. For nonprofit organizations, you can get donations through PayPal. There's nothing wrong with that, but you shouldn't have your personal PayPal. You need a business PayPal. And PayPal now has this thing where your business can get verified. I remember last year we had to get verified, or we got that check mark. So when you donate to our organization, you know exactly how to donate because this is a verified organization. You're not donating to Sebastian Sanders. Hey, when I say, hey, donate to the Sanders hand, you're donating to our business PayPal. You're not donating to me personally. It's just giving off a bad vibe to your customer, right? And so the fourth one is, just stop accepting payments via Cash App or personal PayPal. So we got the four things that you do not need to do when you start your business. And there's so many other things, guys, but what I did was I did some market research. I did some surveying, and I went in and I realized, like, hey, what are people doing when they first start their business? I took the experiences I got from my young kids and my adults that I work with, and I realized this is what all y'all do when you start your business and you go about it the wrong way. So those are the things that you do not need to do. Like I said, it looks good, but none of it's legal and none of this is going to help you get to the bank and get that business loan or get that business grant or the funding that you need to scale your business, right? So that's enough about what not to do. Let's talk about why that doesn't work. They may look professional, but they don't protect you legally. The biggest thing in business, guys, you always want to protect the business, protect the assets, and protect yourself. This is a conversation that we don't talk about a lot. And this is going to be a later episode, and I really want to partner with somebody that's an expert in this because, man, I see so many businesses that do things that don't protect themselves. There's no separation between you and your business. From a branding perspective, you brand yourself as the business in certain elements, that's fine. But when you're putting all of the business documentation and operations together, it needs to be separate. And man, like, I can't tell you how many times when I was learning how to really build a nonprofit, everything was connected to me personally. Like I had my personal Zelle, you was sending me money, and everything I'm telling you, I already did it, right? And so when I was saying don't have your personal Cash App, people was buying T-shirts from us years ago when I was in college. They would just give me the cash, or they would, send it to my personal, and then I'm having to take all of that money, drive to the bank, and put it in the other account, and it's just too much. And then at times, money's getting confused, so now I got to go back and allocate, who bought what and how much we made originally. So it was way too much, and it didn't look professional. Like I'm telling you to donate to this organization, but I have my personal name. This is my personal Zelle. It doesn't look right? Nonprofits already have a certain stigma on them, and so if I'm telling y'all to donate to support the kids, but it's going to my personal bank account, that raises some red flags. So, I had to learn, like, hey, how do you separate yourself? You can't build real business credit. Now, in another episode, we'll kind of dive into what you need for business credit. But if you don't have your business legally set up, you go into a bank and you say, hey, I want a line of credit for $25,000 to open up this ice cream shop. And then they look at your documentation, they look at what you already got, and everything is personal. Literally everything is personal. There's no LLC to protect it. Everything is in your name. It's your home address. And they're like, okay, is this your, there's no separation. And so it's hard for you to go out and get the funding because you got all of this stuff. But you want to walk into a bank and say, hey, can I get $25,000? If I'm a bank loaner and I say, hey, what do you have? And you tell me, well, I got a website, I got a logo, I got some inventory, and I got my personal cash out. I'm going to tell you, go home and figure something out because you're not getting no money from me. And that's what you're probably going to get. Now, they're not going to tell you exactly what I just said, but they go deny you and make you go home, right? And so there's no legal backing if something goes wrong. And we have to learn how to plan for when things go wrong because in business, everything is not going to always be okay. Everything ain't peaches and cream. Get off social media. Get out of this fantasy world thinking that everything I'm going to do in business is going to be A1 okay. No, it's not. You're going to have a whole bunch of hard times and dark times before you start to see some wins. And I know people be like, well, nah, man, I see people overnight sensations. Think about the billionaires. Think about, the Jeff Bezos, right? Amazon has been around since the 90s. They started off originally trying to sell books until they evolved into what they are today. Think about all the times that he had to change that business, evolve that business, and scale that business from what he once started in the 90s to what it is today. And think about if he didn't have his stuff together, what if somebody would have sued Amazon for selling books or something like that 20-something years ago? And he might have got sued. I'm just throwing out a wild example. But what if he would have got sued and everything was all over the place, none of his business stuff was intact, and that person sued the company and that person took over? We probably wouldn't have Amazon Prime. We wouldn't have the things that we have with Amazon today if there was no legal backing if something went wrong. And you got to know as a business owner, something is going to go wrong, right? Whether that's a customer complaint, whether that's a product or service going bad, something is going to go wrong at some point. And so it doesn't work if your first thing that you do when you start a business is you're trying to go get a logo on a website. It doesn't work that way. So now I want to talk about how to start a real business. This is what you need to do instead. The first one is form an LLC, a limited liability company. Now, I just use LLC as my example, but some of y'all may have an S Corp. You may go do a nonprofit. You may have a partnership. So there's various forms of professional business entities that you can put together, but I'm going to use LLC as my example today. Your LLC is pretty much the most common, right? What it means is limited liability. It literally limits your liability from your personal. So you want to get your LLC, you can get that for $300. I believe they're for $300. You form an LLC. That's the first thing you need to do. As soon as you got that business idea and you got the funding to go out and do it, you go and get the LLC. That's the first thing you need to do. The second is get a new EIN. An EIN is the employer identification number. This is free from the IRS. This is pretty much that number that you use on all of your documentation, all of your bank loan applications, grants, your credit. This is how the IRS can identify your business and identify you for tax purposes. You also got to understand as a business person, as a business owner, you do pay taxes. Now, if you're a legal nonprofit and you have your 501c3 status, you are tax exempt. And then there's other nonprofit, criteria as well when it comes to that. But just for today, you have to have a fresh EIN. So if I started Patty's Cupcakes 10 years ago, but now I'm finna start Luis's Pizza, I cannot use Patty's EIN from 10 years ago. I have to go and get a fresh EIN because this is a whole new business with a whole new structure and a whole new identity. So you have to make sure you get a new EIN. I remember I was coaching a client a few months ago, and she was moving from Missouri to Texas, and she was trying to figure out, do I get a new EIN because I'm moving from a different state? And I was like, well, yeah, because you're starting a new entity and you're starting a new business. Now, if you was franchising or picking up where you left off, you're just expanding to Texas, you could just use the umbrella that you had in Missouri and create another branch under with the Texas. You may not necessarily need a new EIN, but you're starting a whole new business. You have to get a whole new EIN. And all of this stuff is tax purposes. The next one is open a business bank account. I just told you, don't be doing Cash App and PayPal personal. Go and get a business bank account. Most of the times they're free. I want to say Chase has a good business bank account for small businesses. Wells Fargo, Bank of America has a decent one. Your local credit unions are also probably some of the best to go to because you can get you get real good incentives, and people have to understand credit unions are community owned. They're owned by the people. Everybody that has a bank account with a credit union is a part owner. And so a lot of times you have more of a personal relationship with them. And so if you do open up that business and say 2-3 years from now, you say, hey, I need some business funding, it may be easier for you to walk into your local credit union and try to negotiate a deal versus you trying to go knock on the doors of a Wells Fargo or a Chase, those big businesses who are probably looking into to invest into another big business, right? And so open a business bank account. Read, what they're saying. Sometimes they may come with restrictions like, hey, you can't have this amount in the check-ins, or you maybe need this amount of your savings before you get penalized. You can only do a certain amount of transactions per month, withdrawals or deposits. So kind of read the fine print, but get a basic business account. And as your business grows, you grow with it. And of course, you can grow out of that account and go and get another account. But you need to have a business bank account. Do not be getting the profits and the funding, and then it's going into your personal account. And now all of your money is tied together. There's no separation, right? What I just told you. And let's say you made $3,000 in the business, and in your personal account, from your job or wherever, you're making like $2,000 a month. All of that money is flowing into there. And then, you're getting your $3,000 a month, but let's say 1 month it goes up, and then as it goes up, you're not able to identify and track those numbers because all of it's going into one account. At the end of the year, and I'm trying to audit and see how much I made, I don't know how much I made because everything was bled into my personal account, and I'm using all of that personal account to do everything. So you have to have some separation. And so for me, when I first started the organization, one of the things somebody told me, hey, you need to go get a business bank account. And I was like, man, we barely even making $100. Like literally, like we had like $50 to $60 that we probably made from donations, and that's all I had. And that was sitting in the account for weeks. But I had to have something because I was trying to build a legitimate business, and I knew I needed to separate the money. Plus, at the time, I was in college. I was a broke college student, right? And I'm riding around in college. Like the little money that I did had, if I'm putting all my money in my account, of course, the little money that we were making, I'm probably going to use for self. And that's the bad way to go about business because you build bad business habits. So I had to learn, like, hey, man, separate the two. Even if it's $20, $30, long as I got something to say I have a legal business account, I can see at the end of the year where my money is going, right? And so, we can get deeper into this on a more of a financial level on another episode because we'll talk about using QuickBooks and things like that. But open up a business bank account. And then my last one is what to do to start a real business is set up business payment processors. PayPal for business. They have PayPal for business. Business Square. Square is probably one of the most easiest ways to transact, and that's a way better approach than Cash App. You can use Square to send invoices. I remember when I was owning the event space, we used Square a lot to send invoices. Square also has the reader, so if you're doing tabling, if you're walking around doing hand-to-hand services, if I'm selling a T-shirt and I'm at this event, don't Cash App me. I got the Square card right here. You can swipe it just like you would do at a store. So get the Square account. You can utilize the invoices and all that good stuff. You got PayPal Business. You have Square. And these are some of the most basic business payment processors, but these are the things that you can do to build better business habits and separate, all of the things that we just talked about in your business. So with that being said, start a real business. Let's do a quick recap. The things not to do: logo, website, inventory without a plan, and have a Cash App and personal PayPal. The things you need to do to start a real business, we're going to write them here on the whiteboard. So this is what you need to do to start a real business. So I'm going to put it right here. The first thing is form the LLC. Right? Number 2, get a new EIN. Number 3, open a business bank account. And then number 4, set up real systems. Square, PayPal. And those are just some basic ones. There's so many different processes out there, but those are some of your most popular ones and some of your most customer-friendly ones, right? So these are the things that you need to do to start a real legal business. And the reason I keep saying legal, because a lot of us, we do stuff behind the scenes for so long, and we get so comfortable with it. And when we're finally presented with an opportunity, and the reason I'm speaking is because I was just doing some small business consulting with an amazing organization, and we were trying to help people get business funding for this grant that we have here in Houston. And I would see so many people come through, and man, they got some great products, great services. They've been around for a long time, and a lot of them just didn't really have things intact, right? And I'm like, man, like if somebody would have told you how to start a business the legal way, you could have started, got the grant funding, got the business credit. You could have got all the funding that you need to grow and scale your business. But sometimes we start behind the oddball because we do everything the easy way, the behind the scenes way, the backyard way, the way that's more convenient for us at that time. But you got to sacrifice a few years in business especially in the beginning. You got to sacrifice a few years. So with that being said, we just walked around what to do, what not to do, how to start our real business legally. And I want to talk to you, why does it matter, right? Why does it matter that we start this the right way? It protects your personal assets. If I have a house and I have a business and the business is in my name, or actually we don't even have a name. Everything is tied to me personally. And let's say I get sued, right? Let's say I have a hair product, right? Like the Beauty and the Black, for example, the Tyler Perry show on Netflix, right? Crazy show, by the way. I love the show. They had this big business. I think they're getting sued right now because the products or something like that is not good or whatever. It's messing the people up or something, right? So they have a whole legal team. They got Vernie the lawyer and all that good stuff. You may not necessarily have that money right then and there. But let's say you had something like Beauty and the Black and you didn't have all the lawyer team intact and somebody sued you. They can legally sue you and take you for what you have. And let's say you have a house. Say you have a $300,000 house, and the judgment is for like $500,000. They'll take that $300,000 house, which you have to give to the person if you lose, and then you have to make up the extra $200,000 to get to the $500,000 judgment. That's why it's important to have a LLC, because if I have my LLC intact and I have my business intact, you're only going to take or sue for what the business has, not me personally. So now my business may suffer, but me personally, I can still live. I can still have a roof over my head for my family. So protect your personal assets. It builds trust with customers. Customer trust goes a long way. The same way we go to Chick-fil-A, they're going to make you feel good. You're going to have some good customer service. You go to McDonald's, you pull up to the drive-thru. The first thing they say, go ahead. Like, dang, you ain't even, you ain't gonna say how I'm doing, So, but I go to Chick-fil-A, it's a whole different service, right? So there's a trust that you have with them. And so you want to build some type of trust with your customers, because it goes a long way. If you got real community support and you got people loving your product, reviewing your product, they always gonna talk good about you. Man, no matter where you're at, if you got some good stuff, people gonna drive. Like here in Houston, we got a huge food scene. If you got some good food, man, I'll drive 30 minutes to get some good food. I'm not even gonna trip on that 30-minute drive, because I understand that it comes with good customer service and it's good quality food. Now, if my food suck, I'm rude, we don't open on time, I'm not driving 30 minutes to go and get that. You may have some really fire, I'm not driving, right? Because there's no trust with it. And then having that trust with the bank, it allows me to walk inside of a bank and have a banking relationship. Like I said, utilizing the local credit unions and things of that nature, this is why it matters to build my business the legal way, because I can walk inside of a bank and say, hey, I need some help, right? We just ran through a struggle. We just had a loss in the business. I need some help to get back on my feet. I can go to the SBA and I can go to the local banks because I built a partnership. It helps you get grants, business credit, and funding. But it also positions you as a CEO and not as a side hustler. If you guys remember episode 2, if you haven't, go check out episode 2, and I asked you, are you a hustler or entrepreneur? As you see, everything that I'm teaching is all flowing into why all of this stuff is important. A hustler is going to do everything the backyard way. A hustler is going to get a logo, a website, and sell you anything. But then a hustler can't scale a business like an entrepreneur because they didn't do it the legal way. So a hustler was going to keep hustling for the next 10 years, making a little money here and there because they don't know how to build from the house to a system. We got to learn how to get out of that mindset, right? And I'm not just saying this for young people, but we got some older people that I see that just don't know how to build a business the legal way, and they suffer, And so this is why it's important. This is why it matters that we build a business the legal way. But are you ready? Ask yourself this, like, are you ready to do it the legal way? Are you ready to do it the right way? Because if you're not, then you can just turn this episode off, go home and go to sleep and keep doing the hustling thing and then wonder why your business can't grow. But be real with yourself. Ask yourself, are you ready? The first thing is you want to get your LLC. So right here, guys, as you can see, I'm going to put some resources that you can do to go out and get your LLC. Here in Texas, you can visit the Texas Secretary of State, sos.state.texas.us. Visit that website, or you can just Google it. You go there and get your LLC. You have LegalZoom.com. It's probably one of the most prominent, websites out there to help you. There's another one called inkfile.com. I didn't list it here, but I'm going to tell you inkfile.com. I have personally used them to get my own LLC, so check them out. You get your EIN. This is free. It comes from the IRS. It's free, and it comes from the IRS. So do not go anywhere else and let anybody charge you $100 to get your EIN. Dude, it is legit free. IRS.gov, you register your business, you get your EIN. I think you get that within 48 hours, right? And they email it to you, copy that PDF, put it in the folder, and there you go. You got your EIN. I believe it's an 8-digit number or something like that, but you want to get very familiar with that number when you get it, because if you're like me, you're going out for grants, you're doing contracting, I'm always having to know my EIN. I know my EIN just like I know my Social Security number, right? Open a business account. Get to your local banks or your credit unions. Chase has a really good program. Like I said, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, credit unions. Here in Houston, we got TDECU Credit Union. They have a really good program. So check out your locals in the area. Do your market research. Figure out what best fits you in your business, and you go and get your account. You have a few online options such as Bluevine, Novo, or Mercury. Me, I'm kind of old school, right? I kind of like going in person sometimes, so I'm not really too excited about an online bank, but if it happens for you and your business, then that's okay for you. And then as we talked about earlier, this is how you set up your business payments: PayPal Business, Square, and Stripe. And guys, as always, you can definitely reach out. You can get some time on my calendar. You can book a 15-minute free consultation. It's only free for 15 minutes. After that, there is a fee. But we can really, deep dive into this more if you need my support and you need my help. But this is what not to do, and this is what to do. And this is episode 3. How do you legally start a business? You see it, but do you believe it?